as I was.
No, there's a lot worse out there.
Yeah. There is. Which.
Are we going into that now?
Not yet. I want to go to the fans' choice real
Sure.
quick, and I'm gonna just go ahead and say this as soon as I can find the picture here. I'm just gonna go ahead and say this, and if you know, and this is we're talking about fans' choices. This is your choices for the best movies. For the best, for your favorite films of 2019, and you participate on Facebook. You get to vote in various different rounds or whatever.
I'm feeling a migraine coming on just by looking at this picture.
I'm just gonna say this. Look, you can like whatever movie you like, but y'all should be damn ashamed of yourself.
But see, this is exactly why we get this is why we get crap made, because again, of folks who do this. Now, I like to think that maybe they're doing a joke on you because it's the Joker and etc.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
Now, I will say, in a general sense, was Godzilla 2 more fun than the Joker? Sure.
Yes.
But in terms of good, like, movie making and storytelling and character development, oh God, the Joker would totally destroy. I mean, the Joker would, like, if there was a battle between the two of them using the Joker's film construction versus Godzilla's film construction, the Joker would, like, somehow create an energy weapon that would suck all the atomic energy out of Godzilla, and Godzilla would shrivel up like a prune. Because that, to me, is how of much of a juggernaut the Joker's storyline and development and character, just the whole look of the film, everything, and the fact that there's no CGI just about in that film, just about.
Right.
It's all about the character. It's all about the story. It's all about the descent into madness. Whereas, like you said, Godzilla is just about a big CGI lizard on the screen attacking other CGI lizards on the screen.
Exactly.
And I'm just like, I think Joker made people feel too uncomfortable.
Probably so.
Which again, I understand that. Like I said, with Trey, we totally get that because he was freaking out. He was like, okay, cop, officers, I don't know this guy. I don't know what's going on with him, but he needs some help. But yeah, he's like, anyway. But this is why we get bad movies, I think, because again, people are going to be like, but I just like it.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with just liking it. But again, in terms of, do you like it because you like it, or do you like it because it's actually good?
Yes.
Not that you like it, because I like things that aren't good. In fact, I like things that are probably physically you shouldn't really eat in terms of that. But a lot of people do.
Yeah.
They eat stuff like, I really shouldn't be eating that. But they like it. Like, heck. I mean, the shake I'm drinking isn't the healthiest, but it's not the most unhealthy. Or smoothie, not really a shake. But you'll put food together that maybe isn't the healthiest, but you like it. Now, you do eat it all the time? Of course not.
Right.
No problem. I get that, So, you can put weird concoctions together. Not the healthiest thing in the world. You like it for what it is, but you don't eat it all the time because you wouldn't be able to do that because it's like, well, it's nice as a treat. Or it's not as a little thing. Or it's like, oh, it's late night and I'm watching an old movie and, I'd like to have this weird thing. And so you throw the concoction together, you make some weird, bizarre food choice and you eat it. And then you don't eat it for a while because you just like, I just wanted that taste of that thing or something. But then again, it's not healthy, and you go, I don't eat it all the time because it would not be good for you. It's like drinking, He's like, you never know, so often I don't drink that much, but I like a mixed drink, or I like a beer, or I like a glass of wine or something, Like, okay, cool. And I do it all the time? No, of course not, because if, number one, it's probably not the healthiest thing for you. Number two, if you're taking medications, you probably can't. Or if you're driving or whatever, you probably don't want to because it's, again, dangerous.
Right.
So things like that, you go, okay, I can do this, but probably shouldn't.
Right.
All the time.
Right.
So
yeah, but this was an interesting tournament. There was a lot of ones that I was surprised because I remember the reception from Captain Marvel. And like I put polls out earlier in the year, and I was just like, "Hey, did you enjoy Captain Marvel?" And I got there was a lot of positive response for Captain Marvel. So when it came around to the end, I was like, "Okay, expecting we got a little bit of a girl fight here. We got Alita Battle Angel versus Captain Marvel." Alita just was like, they were just like, "Alita." Like they were not playing. I was just kind of like, wow, okay. I
wonder how much of that was Marvel saturation, and that was Alita was new and different, and it was an unusual, again, the world immersion of, oh wow, it's cybernetic people, and that's a thing, and that's the world is fresh and new. We're seeing it, we're like, oh, this is interesting, oh, this is cool, as opposed to the same old with Captain Marvel,
right? And
then at the same time, a lot of the heavy-handedness of Captain Marvel, like when she blasted Arnold Schwarzenegger's face or something in the movie theater or the store, and I'm just like,
yeah, there was a lot of like obvious where it was just kind of like obvious, quote unquote, the female empowerment man bad moments in that movie or whatever. But it was like I was surprised that it kind of went that way or whatever. And I'm honestly, to be perfectly honest, I was genuinely surprised that this was as leaned over as it was. But then again, I do have to remember, like, well, Star Wars did just come out when I read this poll, so it may have had something to do with it there. And I was like, but I was still surprised. I was like, wow, that was actually.
Wait, go back to that. Mm-hmm. I will say about this. I would actually do it the other way. If I were doing the poll, I would say 90% Terminator compared to Star Wars, just because there was more character development and interestingness to these characters. Now, again, they both were turkeys, in my opinion. And again, they're two of my the horrible bad films. Those are two, I think, of my choices anyway. But in terms of overall, I kind of like the character, Grace's character. I kind of like the character. I know some people are like, oh, Mary Sue, or oh, SJW, blah, blah, blah. I kind of liked her general character.
I said this in the review. I said, like, she probably had the most interesting backstory or whatever. It's just so glossed over. It's just like, boom, there it is. All right, we're going back to it.
As for the main, the reason for the young girl, I'm like, okay, I just
no.
And when they showed her later, she was still baby face and tiny, and we're like, no,
exactly.
It's like she's the master of the blaster. She's the little tiny person on the big guy's back.
Yes.
So that's kind of what's going on here. Basically, Arnold is the Terminator. He's the blaster, and she's the master. And I'm like, didn't really work, though, because she's like, I'm going to stand and fight. And then she's trying to hold this gun, and it's like,
yes,
she can barely hold it. And it's not even it's a shotgun type thing. It's not like it's a grenade launcher or it's a, minigun or, it's like Arnold did in the second movie.
Yeah.
It's just a regular type shotgun. And she's like,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
what?
she's so tiny. Like,
it didn't work. It did not work. And again, people are like, "Yay, female empowerment!" I'm like, but Arnold still had to win. Arnold still was the one. He still did more. He still did more. He was in the movie last, but he still did more to save the day.
Yeah, despite them trying to ruin him.
Trying to ruin him. Making him turn him into Carl the draper. Like, oh my God, Carl the upholsterer and curtain guy. And I'm like, oh, Lord Almighty.
I would have rather, to that point, I would rather, or to your point earlier, I would rather have seen a movie about Grace than sorry, I mean, I love Sarah Connor from Terminator and Terminator 2. But I would have rather just been a movie about Grace. Take out Sarah Connor. Take out little tiny girl. Take her out. Take Arnold out. I want to see the movie about Grace.
Yeah.
Just let that be the movie. And maybe it would have been closer. Maybe it would have been too close to Terminator Salvation. Maybe. But I'm like, I would have rather have saw her movie versus any of the other.
Sort of like Terminator Salvation, but kind of like not involved directly with the story, like a soldier story about that time. Kind of reminds me a little bit of that movie, the one with Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt, where they keep repeating. That would have been that kind of that same
Live,
idea.
Die, Repeat,
Live, Die, Repeat, because she would have been in that kind of future world fighting monsters, robots in this case, and we would have seen everything through her eyes as opposed to, like, in other words, like what's going on the other front.
Right.
Which would have been kind of interesting and cool. And you could have then created your own characters and the whole 9 yards. Right. And it still would have been in the Terminator world. It just would have been like, I don't know, Terminator Story B.
If
Terminator, the B side.
Yeah.
You see what's happening on the other side of the thing.
Kind of like they do with comics, where they just have you got the main story arc, and then you got these little spin-off stories or whatever.
Yeah.
Just you don't have to read them, but they're nice little additions to the story if you so chose to.
And you could have done a little touch and crossover of maybe she's there and she runs across, Sarah Connor or. John Connor, something where they kind of cross paths, or maybe she, I don't know, bumps him out of the way of a blast or something. It's like, thanks, kid, I appreciate it, And then she's like, yes, sir, no problem, And then you can do that just kind of real quick, just to kind of just remind everybody, hey, look, remember I was doing this, but not heavy handed like we see a lot of like Star Wars and other things. So,
yeah. So, excuse me. So before I get into the obvious, this was a battle that genuinely surprised me. This had the most votes on any of the polls that I ran. This
now, how many votes were we getting on these? Do you know?
We were ranging, I think, around 60 to 70 people.
Wow.
But this one had a lot of votes. This one had a lot of votes, and it was crazy because it was I was looking at it, and it was tied for the most part for so long. And I was talking to Hakeem because at first Dragon Ball Super Broly was winning, and I was like, huh. So the anime fans really came out. So it was the anime fans versus the MCU fans. Right. And it was just neck and neck for so long. And I told Hakeem, I said, Hakeem, they're tied. And he went on there and he was just like, well, let me put my vote in real quick. And he put his vote in. Someone else voted for Endgame. And it was to the last 2 hours before we got 2 votes for Endgame, and then it moved on.
Wow.
But yeah, that was
it was close.
It was close.
I mean, that's the closest. That's the closest one I think I've seen, right?
Yeah, that was the closest one. That had brought out a lot of people. They were these two went head to head.
Wow.
But the obvious winner was Endgame.
Right.
That was the obvious winner.
Right.
I don't even think even if Joker would have made it to this final round or whatever, I still think Endgame would have been chosen by the fans just because of.
Well, it's kind of like the Star Wars thing.
It might have been closer, but I think it.
But it was kind of like the Star Wars thing because we had already been so invested in all the stories and the movies up to that point that you have the payoff, and so you're riding that wave. Whereas the Joker was sort of new,
right?
It was unexpected and kind of like whoa, whoa,
right?
Godzilla was just a popcorn movie, really.
Exactly.
Endgame is kind of too, but it pays off in terms of how you get to that point of, because no offense, Captain Marvel came out right before that, and everybody's like, oh my God, that was awful. So they were just waiting for something better than that. And so anything, like you said, it just would be better. And we've already, kind of grew up with these characters and we invested a lot of time and stuff in these characters. And
11 years.
Yeah. So
or
unless it just
getting ready to be 12. Actually.
Yeah. If it just had just really bombed, that would have disappointed a lot of people. And it wasn't I will say again, the one before it,
Infinity War,
was better,
much better,
because it had a better play out and ending, because it was like, what? It's kind of like Empire Strikes Back. At the end, you're like, oh my God, what? So, and this is definitely the Return of the Jedi to that, because it was okay. It was a good point.
I'd say Return of the Jedi is better, but
no, I meant of the two films. It's like
yeah.
that Infinity is Empire, and this is Return of the Jedi, because it's like, it's okay, it's good, but it's not as good as the other one. And it was kind of like, it's got Ewoks. It's like, okay,
yeah. Some good emotional payoffs, yes. And the reason I made that statement, because I was thinking about that same thing. I made that comparison when I was telling Trey about it. And I was just kind of like, it's kind of like the Return of the Jedi, in that sense. But then I was thinking about a lot of the emotional payoffs in this movie, and I was just like, well, the emotional payoffs in Return of the Jedi at least made sense. This one didn't, because I'm just like, you think about Iron Man, it was just kind of like, well, no, Iron Man should have never died. Where was his help? Nobody helped him. But Captain Marvel got a lot of help when she didn't need it. You know,
that's true.
Like,
I mean, because didn't she like fly through the ship and blow it up and crash it? Now she did crash it into the Earth, so she actually made the Earth not as good because, well, she's, I mean, technically from Earth, but it wasn't living on Earth at the time. So it's like, what do I care if I crash a giant alien spaceship into the planet?
Yeah.
Doesn't hurt me none. I don't live here. Whatever. You know, I'll fly away.
So it was just like, like I said, it was a lot of the scene. They wanted the scene. They wanted the emotion of Tony dying.
Right.
But they didn't really think about how they were going to do that. They wanted the emotion of Steve, you know, finally being able to just live his life as a person and not as a soldier.
Right.
But they didn't really think about how they were going to do that.
Right.
You know, they wanted them to have their happy endings or their emotional endings, didn't really think it all the way through. And it just, I understand if he got choked up by it, but it was just like.
But then you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Because we were like, wait a minute. He took the stones back. Why isn't Black Widow still alive?
Why isn't Black Widow? But,
soul for soul.
Exactly.
Gave the soul stone back. Where is she? She's not here. Why not? So if you go back, again, there's an issue of the crossover. So there's two Steve Rogers, and like, so I don't know, how does that work? So you're like, huh? Wait a minute. See, that's why I was talking about Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure handled time travel better than some of these other movies that are newer that they should have actually put more thought into. But you're like Bill and Ted, you're like, wow, you think about it, it's like it was a silly movie, but like, wow, they really did handle time travel better than some of these other movies. You're like, what? That's awesome.
Ted and Back to the, and that's what the thing that one of the things that irritated me was because like, wait, you just called those movies out as bullshit. You just messed up your own timeline. Yeah. You just completely messed up your own time travel plot, but you're gonna be like, oh, but time, was Back to the Future. That's all bullshit. And I'm like, okay, okay, this is how you really do time travel. I'm like, but whatever, whatever.
True.
So, but like I said, I understand it to a certain degree. I wish I could be there with you guys and enjoying that movie. I don't. I have tried 4 times. The 4th time I couldn't even get through it. I was
just through Endgame?
Nope, couldn't even get through it.
Really?
I was just like, because every time I watched it, it was subsequently getting worse because I would think it was something else would pop up.
Right.
And I'm like,
Yep.
Yeah, by the time I'm just like, okay, this is broken at this point.
Yeah.
Whereas like Return of the Jedi, I can be like, okay, the Ewok planet. Yes, I understand that they do help in the fight, but it's still dumb.
Well, but that's the thing about, like I said, with you compared to Star Wars movies today compared to like before, like the Porgs, for example,
who serve no purpose. Yeah.
What?
Who serve no purpose.
Yeah, they serve no purpose. Yeah. Although I will say they apparently when they filmed it on that Irish island, there were a lot of puffins that they couldn't remove, but they could have digitally taken them out. But anyway, so that was the thing, and the puffins served no purpose, but the Ewoks actually served a purpose. Yes. If you take them out of the film, again,
it does change.
It changes, and so they can't really do the same things that they were doing without that.
Yes,
So, but then there's a lot of questions like, well, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? I go, that's a good question. I don't know. Maybe it was hastily done because like, oh, we're building a ship. We're building the space station, but we're not ready yet. We do have some, fleet around, but we need something to protect it. Well, let's hastily build, a power plant with a, force generator on the planet real quick. I was like, okay, I can see why they wouldn't, maybe they're in the process of cutting back and blasting trees out of the way or whatever at some point. Just to kind of keep that, but they were kind of hidden, and that they didn't really care about the indigenous people because those Ewoks, they didn't care.
Right,
Ewoks didn't bother them. They're like, we don't care. They're native, indigenous, whatever's, but they don't bother us. They're primitive. They don't care. Yeah. So I could see them kind of like, it's no big deal. So I don't know. But then the whole, we talked about the whole issue of the emperor kind of going like luring them there. We could lure them somewhere else and have the thing finished. I don't know. That's a completely different kind of thing. But so I don't know. But yeah, I mean, like I said, the Endgame I just like just because it was the ending. It wasn't that good, but it did end the franchise, and it did kind of do some stuff that was feel good.
Yeah.
And it did some dumb stuff that we were like, oh. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know.
It's
better. Again, it was a very shallow pool of things. It wasn't very deep.
Very, very, very much so. Like, yeah, you guys didn't have you didn't have your pick of the litter all. I mean, you did, but it was kind of like. I was like, well, they're all sick, so pick the ones that are less sick, so it doesn't get us sick. So,
thanks for watching until the end, fellow Nerd Posse. If you stuck around this long, it means that we own your soul, and the only way to get it back is to click that subscribe button, leave a like or dislike, and comment down below. If you want to watch the full video, check us out on McBlamentEntertainment.com, or for the audio version, just simply look us up on your favorite podcasting app. Follow us on social media, the links are in the description down below, and if you feel ever so kind, you can support us on Patreon or Subscribestar for as little as $1 a month and gain access to our Discord server where we talk about all sorts of nerdy stuff. Thanks again for watching, and depending on what time of day you're watching, have a good morning, have a good day, and have a good night, and we will see you in the next video.